Ethan Carter had always believed that courage was tested in ordinary ways, saving a life in a street accident, standing up to a bully, or taking a risky mission for Earth's Exploration Corps. But nothing in his training had prepared him for what he saw when the sensors on his ship blinked red. A distant planet, marked with the signs of war, was sending out distress signals, signals that carried the unmistakable energy signature of a sentient being. He adjusted his course and looked down at the planet. Its surface scarred with deep craters and glowing with streams of strange, violet energy. The readings confirmed what he had feared. Someone, or something, was in immediate danger. He set the ship to land in a nearby clearing, where the signals were strongest. As he stepped out of the airlock, Ethan felt the gravity press gently against him, lighter than Earth's, but still enough to remind him of the planet's alien nature. The sky was a swirling mixture of orange and purple, streaked with lightning that sparked without thunder. Trees with crystalline leaves shimmered in the distance, their branches bending under the invisible wind. It was beautiful, yet haunting, and he knew danger lurked nearby. Following the distress signal, he moved cautiously through the forest. Every step seemed to echo in the quiet, as if the planet itself was watching him. Then he saw it, a large structure partially hidden among the trees, built with smooth metal and glowing symbols. This was no ordinary fortress. The signals were coming from inside. Peering around the corner, Ethan saw alien guards patrolling. They were tall, with silver-blue skin and elongated limbs, wearing armor that seemed alive, changing color with every movement. They carried weapons that pulsed with energy. Among them, a figure was being restrained, a female, tall and regal, with eyes like molten gold. Her aura radiated authority, even in captivity. Ethan realized instantly. This was no ordinary being. She was the Queen. He crouched low, considering his options. Charging in would be suicide, but retreating was impossible. He could not ignore someone in such peril. He activated his stealth module, making himself nearly invisible, and crept closer. The guards were careful, but their movements were predictable. Ethan's mind raced, recalling everything he had learned about strategy, improvisation, and courage. Using the environment to his advantage, he triggered a small, controlled explosion far from his position. The guards rushed toward it, leaving only two near the Queen. Ethan moved swiftly, disabling one guard silently and disarming the other before it could raise an alarm. The Queen looked at him, her golden eyes widening in a mixture of surprise and relief. "Follow me," Ethan whispered. "We need to move. Now." She nodded, her voice melodic but firm. "I trust you." They ran through narrow corridors, avoiding patrols and alarms. Ethan noticed symbols etched into the walls, writing he could not understand, but it carried a strange rhythm that seemed almost like music. He realized this civilization was highly advanced, their technology and culture intertwined in ways humans could barely imagine. They reached a chamber with a heavy door that Ethan recognized as a security exit. As he worked to override the lock, a loud alarm blared. The remaining guards were closing in. He glanced at the Queen. She didn't panic. Instead, she extended her hand, and a wave of energy surged toward the approaching guards, knocking them back. Ethan was stunned. She wasn't just royalty, she was powerful beyond imagination. The door clicked open, and they ran into the forest. The Queen kept her energy shield active, fending off attackers, while Ethan led them through hidden paths. It felt like hours, but they finally reached a clearing where his ship awaited. Inside the ship, Ethan secured the Queen and activated the engines. She studied him silently, her gaze intense, but not accusatory. "You risked your life to save me," she said finally. "Why?" Ethan shrugged, unsure how to answer. "Because I couldn't do anything else. You deserved a chance. Everyone does." She smiled faintly, a gesture that warmed him despite the tension. "Humans are curious creatures," she said. "You value life in ways my people sometimes forget." The engines roared, lifting them from the planet's surface. Ethan looked down at the alien world, still burning with conflict, and wondered what the consequences of this rescue would be. The Queen spoke again, softer this time. "I am Lyra, the Queen of Zytheria. You have saved me, and perhaps my people." Ethan nodded. "Ethan Carter. And, I guess, saving you was just the first part of a much bigger story." For a moment, they were silent, watching the stars blur outside the ship's viewport. Ethan felt an odd connection, a recognition that went beyond words. Lyra had been a figure of legend on her world, untouchable and distant. Yet here she was, trusting him with her life. He realized that humanity's strength was not just in technology or bravery, but in empathy, in the willingness to reach out to others, even when it was risky or incomprehensible. As the ship sped away from Zytheria, the Queen looked at Ethan once more. Ethan smiled, leaning back in his seat. "Not all. But some of us will, when it counts the most." The Queen's eyes softened. "Then perhaps there is hope for the universe yet." They flew in silence for hours, exchanging small stories about their lives, their worlds, their hopes. Ethan discovered that Lyra had borne the weight of leadership since she was young, responsible not just for herself but for millions. Her strength was admirable, but her loneliness was palpable. For the first time, Ethan felt the depth of connection that could exist between species. That courage and understanding could cross boundaries of worlds. By the time the ship exited the planet's orbit, Ethan knew their meeting was the beginning of something far greater than he had anticipated. But for now, the immediate danger had passed. For the first time in his life, he had saved not just a life, but a future and perhaps, unknowingly, a bond that could change everything. And though the night was far from over, Ethan Carter felt a strange certainty. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous. But moments like this reminded him why humans, in all their imperfection, could shine brighter than the stars. The ship hummed softly as it glided through the empty void of space, carrying Ethan and Queen Lyra away from the dangers of Zytheria. The stars streaked past like silver threads, and the silence inside the cabin felt heavy, yet strangely comforting. Ethan watched the Queen, her golden eyes reflecting the distant light of the stars, and realized that her calm demeanor hid years of responsibility and solitude. Lyra broke the silence first. "Ethan, you could have left me there. You didn't have to risk yourself. Jana, Reso. One. Jana, Reso. Janapan." He shook his head. "I couldn't. I don't know why, but leaving you would have been wrong. I've saved people before, sure. But saving you felt different." She studied him quietly, as if trying to read the depth behind his words. Then she gave a small smile. "Humans are strange. So simple, yet sometimes so brave." Ethan chuckled lightly. "I'll take that as a compliment." For the next hours, they spoke quietly. Ethan told Lyra about Earth, about his training, and about the people he loved and left behind. Lyra shared stories of her world, of her people, and of the weight she had carried as queen since she was very young. The more Ethan listened, the more he realized that her strength was not just in her energy powers or royal status, but in the burden of caring for an entire civilization and never showing fear. As night fell over Zytheria's orbit, the ship passed through a shimmering nebula, bathing the cabin in soft colors. Ethan noticed the Queen's gaze lingering on the shifting lights, a softness in her expression he hadn't seen before. It made him aware of how fragile even the strongest beings could be. "We've been through a lot today," Ethan said carefully. Lyra nodded, but she didn't move immediately. "I do not rest easily. Even in safety, I feel the weight of duty." Ethan considered this. "I get that. I've been responsible for people too. In my missions. But sometimes, if you don't let yourself rest, you lose something important yourself. For a moment, Lyra was silent. Then she placed her hand on the console between them, her fingers delicate but warm. Perhaps, you are right. I have lived for others so long that I have forgotten what it is to just be. Ethan felt a connection forming, a quiet understanding bridging two very different worlds. He realized that courage wasn't only in fighting or risking life. It was in opening up, in trusting someone, even for a brief time. Then let's be human for a moment, Ethan said softly, offering a small smile. Let's just be ourselves, without duty, without fear, just for tonight. Lyra tilted her head, considering him. Her golden eyes shone with a mix of curiosity and warmth. Very well, she said. I will trust you for one night. They moved to a small observation room where the ship's lights were dimmed. The walls were transparent, giving them a clear view of the stars swirling around them. The Queen allowed herself to lean back against the seat. Her usual regal posture softened into relaxation. Ethan sat beside her, careful not to crowd her space, yet close enough to share the moment. They talked quietly, sharing stories and dreams they had never voiced before. Lyra spoke of her childhood on Zytheria, the moments when she wished to just play among the forests, to dance under the alien sun, to be free of expectations. Ethan shared tales of Earth, of nights spent watching storms, of laughing around campfires with friends, and of wondering what lay beyond the stars. For a while, there was no need for words. They simply sat together, two beings from different worlds, finding comfort in shared silence. Ethan felt the Queen's pulse, steady and strong, and it reminded him that bravery often came with quiet strength. Lyra glanced at him, and in that moment, there was a mutual understanding, a recognition of the courage it took to face dangers, and the need for connection beyond titles and worlds. Hours passed, yet it felt like moments. Ethan and Lyra laughed softly at small jokes, shared memories, and even made plans for the future, imagining a universe where humans and Zytherians could work together peacefully. There was a trust growing between them, a bond that neither had expected, but both welcomed. At one point, Lyra rested her head lightly against Ethan's shoulder, a gesture of trust and vulnerability. He did not move, understanding that this was not weakness, but a quiet strength, the courage to allow someone else in, even for a short time. The stars outside continued to streak past as they sat in the quiet cabin, and Ethan realized that the night was more than just rest. It was a bridge between worlds, a moment of humanity and connection that neither Earth nor Zytheria could provide on their own. He understood that their meeting, however brief, could leave a lasting impact on her, on him, and perhaps even on their civilizations. Lyra spoke softly, almost a whisper. You have reminded me, Ethan, that life is not only about duty. It is about moments like this, when we can simply be alive and be ourselves. Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of her words. And you've reminded me that bravery isn't just about fighting. Sometimes, it's about caring, about trusting, about sharing yourself with someone else. The ship drifted silently through the nebula, carrying them far from the dangers of Zytheria, yet closer in spirit than they had ever been. They shared stories until exhaustion overcame them, and they fell into a quiet sleep, side by side, still conscious of each other's presence. For both, it was a rare and precious night, free from the pressures of leadership, free from the responsibilities that usually defined their lives. As the first light of a distant star touched the cabin, Ethan awoke before Lyra. He watched her sleep, her face serene and strong even in vulnerability. He knew that tomorrow, the world would demand their attention again, and that their time together would be fleeting. Yet he also knew that this night had changed him, strengthened him, and connected him to something far greater than any mission or battle. When Lyra finally stirred, she met Ethan's gaze. There was no need for words. The connection they shared was understood in silence. A promise of respect, of trust, and of memories that neither would forget. But as dawn approached, Ethan felt the weight of reality pressing in. He could not stay. His presence, no matter how well-intentioned, could endanger her and her people. With a heavy heart, he rose quietly, preparing to leave. "Ethan, you will go?" she asked, her voice calm but tinged with emotion. He nodded. "I have to. If anyone discovers a human close to the Queen, it could start another war. You deserve safety, Lyra. And I have my duty as well." She regarded him for a long moment, then inclined her head. "I understand. You have been brave, in more ways than one." Ethan hesitated, wanting to stay, but knowing he must not. He placed a hand gently over hers, a silent farewell. "Perhaps someday, when the time is right, we will meet again." Lyra's eyes shone with unshed emotion, but she gave a small, resolute nod. "Perhaps we will." And with that, Ethan left, vanishing into the stars, carrying with him the memory of a night that had changed both their lives forever. 5 years had passed since Ethan Carter had vanished from Lyra's life. In that time, both their worlds had changed, but the memory of their night together remained alive in ways neither had expected. On Earth, Ethan had returned to his duties with the Interstellar Peace Corps. He became known as a hero, a man who had saved lives on distant planets, though few knew the full truth of what he had done on Zetheria. He carried the memory of Lyra with him quietly, tucked away in moments of reflection when he gazed at the stars, wondering if she was safe, wondering if she remembered him at all. Ethan threw himself into his missions, helping humans explore new worlds, mediate conflicts, and avert disasters. Yet no matter how busy he was, the memory of Lyra's golden eyes, her quiet strength, and the night they had shared lingered in his mind. He realized that courage was more than risking life. It was also about keeping promises, protecting others, and sometimes making the hardest choice of all, leaving someone behind for their safety. Meanwhile, on Zetheria, Lyra had spent those 5 years rebuilding her planet after the attacks and unrest that had nearly torn her civilization apart. Her people looked to her for guidance, for inspiration, and for reassurance that their queen would always protect them. She did so with remarkable skill, introducing reforms that strengthened her world while fostering hope and resilience among her citizens. Yet despite her accomplishments, she often found herself gazing at the stars, thinking of the human who had risked everything for her. Lyra had kept a small holographic recording of that night, hidden away in her private chambers. She watched it in moments of solitude, reminding herself of the brief warmth and trust she had felt with Ethan. It was a secret she cherished, a reminder that life could be more than duty and responsibility, that courage could also take the form of connection and understanding. But life had its demands. Lyra's responsibilities grew heavier with each passing year. Threats emerged from within and outside her world. Rebellious factions, rival planets, and even natural disasters. Through it all, she led with intelligence, compassion, and determination, qualities that reminded her people why she was their queen. And yet, no one could replace the feeling that had awakened within her the night Ethan had saved her. One quiet evening, as Lyra walked through the crystalline gardens of her palace, she felt a ripple in the energy around her. It was subtle at first, barely noticeable, but it carried a resonance she recognized: human energy, a presence she had not felt for many years. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be? She concentrated, reaching out with her mind in ways she rarely allowed herself. Back on Earth, Ethan had been assigned to lead an exploratory mission near Zetheria. Strange energy readings had been detected near the planet, the kind that suggested anomalies in natural systems or the presence of advanced technology. It was routine, yet as Ethan prepared his ship, He felt an inexplicable pull towards Etheria. He could not explain it, just a quiet, persistent feeling that drew him there, a sense that something or someone important awaited him. The moment their paths began to converge, neither Ethan nor Lyra knew what awaited them, but both felt the silent weight of 5 years pressing between them, a weight of memories, longing, and unspoken questions. Lyra wondered why Ethan had left without a word, why he had vanished when she had trusted him with everything. Ethan wondered if Lyra had moved on, if she had forgotten the night that had changed them both so profoundly. Meanwhile, subtle signs of disturbance began to appear on Scytheria. Small attacks on supply routes, unexplained energy surges, and the occasional rogue patrol suggested that not all threats had been eliminated. Ethan's mission was to investigate these anomalies, unaware that his presence on the edge of the system would bring him closer to the queen he had saved years before. As the days passed, Lyra began to sense that something unusual was occurring. Reports came in of a human ship in the outer orbit, a ship unlike any standard exploratory vessel. She studied it carefully, observing its trajectory, the energy signatures it emitted. Something about it felt familiar, stirring a memory she had tried to keep tucked away. When Ethan finally arrived in orbit, Zetheria's security systems flagged his ship as friendly, but unusual. Lyra authorized a meeting, choosing to confront the visitor herself. As Ethan entered the palace through the docking bay, his eyes widened in disbelief. There she was, Lyra, radiant and commanding as ever, yet still the same queen he had saved and spent that single, unforgettable night with. Lyra's golden eyes met his, and for a moment, the years and distance vanished. Words were unnecessary. The bond they had formed years ago remained intact, unbroken by time. Ethan took a cautious step forward, not wanting to startle her. "Lyra," he said, quietly, "I didn't expect to see you again." She regarded him with a mixture of curiosity, caution, and something softer beneath. "You left," she said simply, her voice calm but edged with the weight of 5 years. Without a word, Ethan swallowed, feeling the guilt he had carried since that morning. "I had to," he said, honestly. "If anyone had known I was close to you, it could have endangered your people. I wanted to keep you safe, even if it meant leaving without explanation. And a G, under son, and a G 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 son, and a G." Lyra studied him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "I see. You acted with courage, as always. But courage sometimes carries a cost." "Yes," Ethan admitted. "And I've paid mine, thinking of you every day." Their reunion, though tense at first, slowly began to ease into a shared understanding. The bond that had been formed years ago was not erased by time or distance. It had matured, strengthened by longing and by the weight of responsibility they both carried. Meanwhile, reports of rogue machines disrupting Zetheria's borders reached the palace. Ethan, now fully aware of the situation, offered his expertise. "These machines are more advanced than anything I've seen. They could pose a serious threat if we don't act quickly." Lyra nodded, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. "Then, we must face them together. Our people depend on it." For both, the reunion had not only rekindled old memories but also reignited a sense of purpose. They were no longer just a human and a queen. They were allies, partners in a mission that could protect not just Zetheria, but perhaps the future of human-alien cooperation across the stars. As the sun of Zetheria rose, painting the crystalline landscape in hues of gold and purple, Ethan and Lyra stood together, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. 5 years apart had tested their courage, patience, and resolve. Yet in the quiet moments of recognition, they realized that some connections could not be broken by time. And so, the stage was set for a journey that would test their ingenuity, their strength, and the bond that had begun on a single night when courage and trust had first drawn them together. The alarms in Zetheria's control center blared, echoing through the palace corridors. Ethan Carter stood beside Queen Lyra, studying the holographic projections of rogue machines moving through the outer territories of the planet. Their energy signatures were erratic and deadly, faster and more intelligent than anything they had encountered before. Lyra's golden eyes narrowed as she examined the patterns. These machines are not random. Someone, or something, is controlling them. They are testing us, probing for weaknesses. Ethan nodded. Agreed. And if they find one, they will exploit it. We need to act before any lives are lost. Agreed. Want something the turn. They're Minostrongrus. Agreed with Poppet. Lyra turned to him, her expression both commanding and familiar. Then we go together. I will lead my forces, and you will advise them. We must act as one, if we are to succeed. Ethan felt a surge of admiration. Years had passed, yet her strength, determination, and confidence had not diminished. Understood, he said. We'll stop them together. They boarded a sleek, dual-command ship designed for both human and Zetherian forces. Ethan took his place at the navigation console, while Lyra operated the energy shields and communications. The hum of the engines and the flashing lights filled the cabin as they accelerated toward the rogue machine activity. As they approached the first sector, the machines appeared towering, metallic constructs that moved with precision and speed. They unleashed energy beams that carved craters into the rocky surface below. Ethan and Lyra worked seamlessly, issuing commands to their combined forces, coordinating strikes, and anticipating the machine's movements. Ethan marveled at how quickly the Zetherian soldiers adapted to his suggestions. His human strategies, based on improvisation and understanding of enemy psychology, complemented Lyra's tactical brilliance. Together, they created a rhythm of cooperation that neither species could have achieved alone. During a brief lull in the battle, Ethan glanced at Lyra. She was focused, her hands moving over the controls with grace and precision, yet there was a faint exhaustion in her posture. You're doing incredible, he said quietly, but you need to rest too. Lyra shook her head slightly. No, I cannot rest while my people are at risk. But I am grateful for your concern. Fard, I am grateful for your concern. Ethan respected her dedication, but he knew the danger was more than physical. Leading a battle, protecting a world, and carrying the weight of her people, it was exhausting in ways that could break even the strongest mind. He decided that he would watch her back, not just with strategy, but with support, ensuring she didn't shoulder the burden alone. The rogue machines advanced toward a city hub where civilians were at risk. Lyra adjusted the shields and directed defensive units, while Ethan coordinated counterattacks. Target the central unit first, he instructed. If we disable it, the others will lose coordination. Lyra executed the maneuver flawlessly. The central machine faltered under their combined attack, giving the defensive forces the advantage they needed. Explosions rocked the landscape, but Ethan and Lyra's coordinated command kept casualties to a minimum. Once the immediate threat was neutralized, they landed near the city hub to assess the damage and ensure survivors were safe. The scene was chaotic, but Lyra's presence brought calm. She moved among her people, offering reassurance and guidance, while Ethan assisted with evacuation and medical coordination. Amid the controlled chaos, their eyes met across the crowd. There was a silent acknowledgement of everything they had been through. The years apart, the dangers they had faced, and the bond that had never faded. No words were needed. The understanding between them was clear and strong. As the night fell, Ethan and Lyra returned to the ship to regroup and plan the next move. The rogue machines had retreated, but their source remained unknown. Ethan studied the energy patterns carefully. These machines are being guided remotely, he said. Someone is testing Zetheria, likely looking for vulnerabilities or weaknesses. Lyra nodded. Then, we must be ready. We cannot allow this threat to grow. They spent hours analyzing data, devising strategies, and coordinating with forces across the planet. Throughout the process, they worked side by side, their collaboration seamless and intuitive. Ethan realized that this partnership was more than professional, it was personal. They trusted each other completely, each anticipating the other's moves and decisions. Later, as the ship drifted quietly in orbit, Lyra finally allowed herself a moment of reflection. "Ethan," she said softly, "these years apart, I never stopped thinking of you. I wondered why you left, why you vanished. But I also understood. You were brave, as always, protecting not just me, but all of Zetheria." Ethan looked at her, his heart heavy with the memory of that painful decision. "I thought leaving was the only way to keep you safe. Every day, I wondered if you would forgive me, if you would even remember me." Lyra smiled gently, her golden eyes shining. "I remember. Every detail. Every word. And seeing you now, I know that courage and loyalty are not limited to one species. You proved that humans can inspire even those of us who have lived centuries." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. "Lyra, I never stopped caring. And now, we have a chance to protect your world together." She nodded. "Yes, together." The following days were a test of strategy, courage, and teamwork. Ethan and Lyra led joint human-Zetherian forces, coordinating defenses, repairing damage, and analyzing the machine's weaknesses. Their combined leadership inspired the troops, showing that cooperation between worlds was not only possible, but powerful. During a particularly intense skirmish, a rogue machine targeted Ethan directly. Without thinking, Lyra extended her energy shield, deflecting the attack and saving him. The moment was brief, but it spoke volumes, a reminder that their connection went beyond strategy. It was trust, care, and a shared commitment to something greater than themselves. After the battle, they stood together on a cliff overlooking the city. The fires from the machine's attacks had been extinguished, and the city was beginning to recover. Lyra turned to Ethan, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "We faced danger together, and we survived. Perhaps this is only the beginning." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the truth in her words. "Yes, and no matter what comes next, I'll be here. For your people, for you, for us." For the first time in 5 years, they allowed themselves to truly feel the depth of their bond. It was not a fleeting connection. It was a partnership built on courage, trust, and understanding. Together, they had faced danger, and together, they had proven that human ingenuity and alien strength could overcome even the most formidable threats. As the stars shone above Zetheria, Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, ready to face whatever new challenges awaited. The rogue machines had tested them, but they had emerged stronger, not only as leaders but as allies. And in the quiet moments between battles, they rediscovered the personal bond that had first formed years ago, a bond that would guide them through the uncertain future. The rogue machines had gathered in the northern sector of Zetheria, near a mountain range where the energy fields were strongest. Ethan Carter and Queen Lyra stood at the command center, watching the displays with focused intensity. Their combined forces were ready. Human engineers, Zetherian warriors, and strategically positioned energy cannons. Ethan leaned closer to Lyra. "This is it. If we act smart, we can disable the central control unit and stop the machines for good, but it will require precise timing and cooperation." Lyra nodded, her golden eyes glowing with determination. "We have no choice." We cannot allow this threat to harm my people or your world. Together, we are stronger than these machines. They boarded their dual command ship, ready to lead the strike. As they entered Zytheria's northern atmosphere, the machines were visible in the distance, their metallic forms glinting against the alien sun. Energy pulses flickered between them, signaling coordination and intelligence beyond ordinary programming. Ethan and Lyra coordinated with the ground forces and aerial units, giving precise instructions to anticipate and counter the machine's movements. Ethan focused on the strategy, calculating trajectories and predicting enemy patterns, while Lyra directed her people with authority and confidence. The synergy between human ingenuity and Zytherian power became clear. The combination was unstoppable. The first wave of machines attacked. Energy blasts illuminated the sky, and explosions rocked the ground. Ethan's heart raced, but he remained calm, trusting Lyra and their forces. "Divert the left flank and focus fire on the central unit," he instructed. "Lyra, we'll need your energy shields to cover the ground troops during the advance." Lyra's hands moved with precision over the controls, her shields expanding and pulsing, protecting their allies from destruction. "Advance now," she commanded. The battle raged for hours, each side adapting and countering the other. The machines were relentless, but Ethan and Lyra's forces were smarter. They moved with purpose, covering each other, anticipating attacks, and striking with perfect timing. Civilians and soldiers alike followed the Queen and her human ally, inspired by their courage and leadership. At a critical moment, a massive machine broke through the perimeter and charged toward the city hub. Ethan shouted over the comms, "Lyra, I've got it. Target the unit from above. I'll guide the strike." Lyra nodded, trusting him completely. She directed a powerful energy beam from the ship, hitting the machine's weak point precisely as Ethan's calculations indicated. The machine collapsed, and the remaining units faltered, losing coordination without their leader. The battle was over. The rogue machines were disabled, their threat eliminated. The combined forces of humans and Zytherians had succeeded, demonstrating not only strength, but unity. Civilians cheered from the ground, and Ethan felt a rare sense of peace, a mission completed, lives saved, and a future secured. Back in the palace, Lyra turned to Ethan, her expression softening. "We did it. The danger is gone, thanks to your strategy and courage. You have proven that humans are more than capable allies, and that trust can bridge worlds." Ethan smiled, feeling the warmth of accomplishment. "It was teamwork. You led your people brilliantly, and I just added some ideas. Together, we made a difference." Lyra's gaze lingered on him. "Together," she repeated, her voice carrying both gratitude and something deeper. "Ethan, these past 5 years, I have never forgotten you, not for a moment. And now, having faced danger together again, I realize that some connections are meant to last." Ethan felt his heart stir. "Lyra, I never stopped caring. I left to protect you, but every day I hoped that fate would bring us together again." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, the weight of 5 years of separation dissolving in the quiet recognition of what they shared. The danger had forced them to cooperate, to trust, and to rely on each other in ways that words could never fully express. Now, with peace restored, they could finally acknowledge the bond that had always existed. Lyra reached out, placing her hand gently on Ethan's. "Then we will no longer be apart. Let us face the future together, not just as allies, but as partners. You have shown me that courage, loyalty, and understanding are not limited to one species. You have inspired me in ways I cannot forget." Ethan took her hand, feeling the warmth and strength in her touch. "I would be honored, Lyra, not just as a leader or a queen, but as someone I care for deeply." The palace corridors seemed brighter as they walked side by side, the citizens of Zytheria witnessing their leaders united. It was more than a personal connection, it symbolized a new era of cooperation, understanding, and respect between their species. Humans and Zetherians could work together, inspire each other, and protect the universe from threats beyond imagination. As the days passed, Ethan took on a permanent role as a liaison between Earth and Zetheria. He and Lyra worked closely, planning collaborative projects, sharing knowledge, and preparing their worlds for future challenges. Their partnership became a model for others, showing that courage, empathy, and ingenuity could unite even the most distant civilizations. In private moments, Ethan and Lyra reflected on their journey. The night they had shared, the years apart, and the battles they had fought together had all shaped them, strengthened them, and brought them to this point. Their connection was no longer fleeting, it was a foundation for a shared future filled with hope, trust, and endless possibilities. One evening, as the twin suns of Zetheria sat over the crystalline forests, Ethan and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The colors of the sunset reflected in the crystalline leaves, painting the world in shades of gold and violet. 5 years, Lyra said softly. I never imagined we would meet again. Not like this. Not after so long. Ethan smiled, squeezing her hand gently. Fate has a way of bringing the right people together, Lyra. And now, we have a chance to build something greater than ourselves together. She looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude, admiration, and love. Yes. Together, the stars began to emerge in the sky, twinkling like tiny beacons of hope. Ethan and Lyra stood there, united in purpose and heart, ready to face whatever the universe might bring. Their journey had begun with a rescue, had survived separation and time, and had culminated in a partnership that could change the course of history. And so, as the twin suns set and the first stars appeared, humanity and Zetheria looked forward to a future of courage, understanding, and unity. Ethan Carter and Queen Lyra had proven that trust, bravery, and connection could cross worlds, overcome danger, and create bonds that no distance or time could ever break. Together, they were not just leaders, not just heroes. They were a symbol of hope for the universe, a living reminder that when courage meets compassion, anything is possible.